What's up, everybody? Welcome to the very first inaugural episode of the Middle-Aged Metalhead. This week we're going to be reviewing the new Iron Maiden album, Senjutsu. So stay tuned. All right, it's been 1 week since the release of Senjutsu from Iron Maiden in camp. Not really sure how I feel about this album yet. I've been listening to it pretty nonstop for the last week. Usually listen to it while I'm at work, in the car, in the gym. And I know it's been getting a lot of pump and praise from the press and from other bands. So I'm not really quite sure, like I said, how I feel about it yet. I would give it a above average rating simply because it is Maiden, and it's been 5 years since they released anything due to COVID. I think the album was done back in 2019, but due to COVID, they weren't able to release it, and they had to kind of sit on it to promote it properly. And obviously, hopefully, they'll get to tour this year, along with all the other bands that are just kind of waiting around to get out back on the road and entertain everybody. So I just want to give some highlights. I'm not really going to go too in depth on this review. I think that a band like Maiden, they have a loyal following, and you can get real in depth with the review and talk about this and talk about that. But I don't really want to do that. I just want to kind of hit the high points for everybody, and let you all give your suggestions and your comments down in the below in the comment section. So anyway, with that, I think some of the highlights were definitely the opening track, Senjutsu. Came out really well. It opened up different than a lot of Iron Maiden albums do. Usually you have, I mean, most times you have a slightly, the single, the faster, more up tempo, non, shorter type song to start off. But they started off with a song that, from my notes, is 8 minutes and 20 seconds. So obviously on the longer side, but not necessarily terribly long by Maiden standards these days. And, you know, uh, it has some sound effects at the end, which are cool. I always like sound effects put into songs because it kind of adds to the atmosphere. There's at the end of the track, there's a wall falling, and you get in the sense of the storytelling of the song that this group, the city, the country, whatever it may be, is under siege, and they're going to the wall to protect their country, basically, or their people. The next song, Stratego, which was the second single they've released so far, that's a pretty standard Iron Maiden song to me. But the only thing I did want to point out on this one is, something that really I'm over in the Maiden albums is when they are doubling the vocal harmony with the guitar. Um, this has got to stop. I don't know how else to say it. I just want to hear Bruce Dickinson sing. I realize that his voice isn't as strong as it used to be, but he's also 62 or early 60s at this point. Um, I think we're all just happy that he's singing, especially after, a couple years ago with the throat cancer and all of that. Like, let's face it, it's a small miracle, if nothing else, that he's even alive, singing, able to perform to this high of a caliber. But all that said, I mean, it's been a noticeable decline in his voice, really. I would say since, oh, I don't know, early tens, early teens, for him. So about the last 10 years. But again, you unfortunately can't stop Father Time. There's not much you can do about that. But let's face it, he's also light years ahead of most singers in any genre. So I'm not really sure why they keep insisting on doubling a lot of his his vocal melodies and the tracks. It seems to be a Steve, most of the Steve Harris penned songs. So I don't know if maybe that's part of his writing process where he works out the song, figures it out, and then he's like, okay, let me figure out the vocal melody. And so maybe he does it on a guitar or a synthesizer or something, and and then they just maybe he can't hear the song without that. I don't know. That's just speculation on my part, and I don't know if producer Kevin Shirley's part of that. Somewhere along that lines. Um, the other the other kind of semi annoying thing about this album, I think, is the overuse of synthesizers. I personally don't mind synthesizers as long as they're adding to the song. Maiden's used synthesizers pretty much since somewhere in time, and they've used them off and on since then, and I really have no problem with that. But if you're I found that the production on this album is has was really kind of muddled. There was just and not like a sound clarity, but more of there's just too much going on. You've got the guitars, you got three guitars going on. You've got to fit the drums and the bass in there, and then you have the vocals come on. Well, if you've got keyboards going nonstop, and then you've got the lone guitar that seems to be doubling Bruce's vocal melody in a lot of these, there just isn't a lot of room to breathe, which was kind of disappointing. It's just I would like definitely couldn't hear the ride cymbals as much. I could hear the cymbals, and the drum playing on this album is from Nico is really top notch, but you can't make some of it out. You lose the bass drum, you lose um, the ride cymbal. A lot of that stuff seems to be muddled. I did notice when I was listening on my headphones, you could obviously, as usual, you can hear things a little bit more clear, but still, the mix just seemed to be off. And that's really apparent at the beginning of the Parchment. It just that intro is so soft and so low. I think it was like the second or third time I was listening. I couldn't. I was I thought, is this playing? Did I hit pause or something accidentally? And then all of a sudden you get blown away by the distorted guitars. I mean that's me nitpicking, but still it's kind of weird that was going on. But to get back to some things I did like about the album, I really like the overall theme lyrically of kind of a reflection of where I think a lot of us feel our world is at right now. Just not a feeling of hopelessness, but a feeling of wow, we're really headed in the right direction. How do we make this better? Let's be less angry. Let's be a little bit more nice to each other. You can definitely see that in the writing on the wall, or some of the other ones that they do a lot of that. Lost in a Lost World, and obviously the closing track, Hell on Earth. Those are lyrically, those seem to deal with the same themes. Even Days of Future Past is kind of you know, they're talking about a person who somehow is immortal and has been living on Earth for, what you assume is a long time, and just kind of the despair or hopelessness that you might have with, you know, being here for so long. Um, I think my standout tracks, obviously, like I said, is the opening track Senjutsu. Let's see from my notes. I really like Lost in a Lost World. Um, Days of Future Past is good. I definitely my standout track for this album has got to be Darkest Hour. That by far is, I know there's some longer songs on this album, but it stands out to me as the predominant track, and I'm really hoping that they will play that live in the next year or two when they're able to get back out on the road. I think that'll be a really excellent track live and can really get people involved. And again, they're using the sound effects with the seagulls and the ocean, and the song itself being about Winston Churchill and him taking a stand, which, let's face it, again, not a lot of people want to do these days. It's kind of a it's just got it's the whole song. It's a classic Maiden song to me. um, I know there was a lot of talk about the last three songs all being, Harris penned epics. I gotta be honest, not really feeling any of those. Hell on Earth is pretty good, but they all suffer from just oversaturation and not in a sound sense, but just we've been going down this path of long songs and a long intro, and I think we've gotten to the point where less is more. All these songs have great parts and they're great songs, but when all of them have a minute to 2 minute soft intro and then here come the guitars, I think we've heard that a gazillion times already on the last 4 or 5 Iron Maiden albums where they've gone down this progressive road. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but something different. It's I think we've got to change. We've got to mix things up a little bit, and just because a song is epic because it's over 10 minutes, that doesn't necessarily make a song epic in my opinion. It kind of drags you out. I know a couple of the songs I just was like, okay, when is this over? Or when, not really the song itself, but just the um, certain parts. I think again, self-editing would go a long way for the guys these days. Anyway, again, this is the first episode, hopefully in many, of the Middle-Aged Metalhead channel, and if you like what you're seeing, please like and subscribe. I'll be starting to try and do weekly content. A lot of it will be album reviews and just things that might be going on in metal. I should, hopefully, I don't know now, should be getting the 30th anniversary Metallica Black Album box set, and I'm kind of going to do a an unboxing of that and just kind of give some highlights of what I was doing 30 years ago when I bought it. So just kind of go down memory lane with that one. I'll also be reviewing the new Bokassa album next week. It came out today, and I like to with the Iron Maiden release, I try to give myself a little bit of time before I give a verdict on something. But anyway, again, if you like what you see here, like and subscribe, and I will talk to you later. Bye.